This is TPG Live, and I am Jeremy Horn, also known as the Product Guy. We're about to begin. This is your stage, no matter where you are in your product journey. From startups to Fortune 500s, interns to CEOs, we're a global community that values every voice. TPG Live is a show where everyone, both on and off camera, is encouraged to join in and shape the conversation with your insights, your questions, your topics. Just hop into the chat room, and I will strive to include as many of your comments as possible within the broader discussion in real time. Today, the on-camera portion of our roundtable is joined by Corin Shlomo Goldenberg, Data Product Manager at Chainlink Labs with 18 years in software and 7 years in product management. For the past 3 years, Corin has specialized in data product management, leveraging a strong background in data analysis, quality assurance, and project management. Her industry experience spans broadcasting, IT operations, healthcare, and marketing technology. Corin is passionate about improving processes and taking a holistic view of products to drive better outcomes. We're also joined by Satish Kasillingham, a product management and digital manufacturing expert with a foundation in mechanical and industrial engineering. Satish has held product manager roles at Hexigma, Canvas GFX, Cool IT Systems, and inspection expert, focusing on industrial IoT, aka IIoT, AI, and process automation. He's a published author on digital manufacturing topics like smart factories, hybrid modeling, and cyber physical systems. Satish has also contributed to World Manufacturing Foundation reports on SME challenges in Industry 4.0 adoption, with expertise in AI, IIoT, CNC machining, product lifecycle management, manufacturing execution systems, and digital transformation. Today on TPG Live, how do product leaders stay true to their bold vision while addressing the realities of market dynamics, resource constraints, and evolving priorities? And what psychological factors truly drive user behavior? Join us in the chat room and at the roundtable as we discuss all this and much more coming up next on TPG Live. Before we get started, quick reminder. You can support The Product Way on Patreon and enjoy some amazing benefits. For less than the price of a coffee, and you know how I love coffee, you'll get access to real-world PM strategies and case studies, tools designed to help you solve your toughest challenges and elevate your career. Looking for even more? Higher tiers unlock exclusive benefits like one-on-one mentoring, resume feedback, shout-outs, and priority access to premium resources crafted for product professionals like you. So join us at patreon.com/theproductway to support the show and keep the content you love coming your way. Now let's get started. Your go-to platform for all things product management, connecting you with industry leaders, trendsetters, and a global community of insights and unique perspectives. This is The Product Way. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Corin, Satish, anything that you'd like to correct that I maybe got wrong with in your bio or forgot to add?
No, nothing.
All good.
Excellent, excellent. So let's get started here. Let's start with a simple question of the show. And so for today's question of the show, I'd like to call your attention to what product do you wish you had created? So what product do you wish you had created? Corin, let's start with you.
Okay, so I hope it's not a corny answer that everyone gives nowadays, but definitely ChatGPT. I know it's not as new, and I wish, it's been out for a while now, but I feel like it's extremely disruptive. And even though the concept of like LLM is not new, was not new when it came out, but it was extremely revolutionary. And I think the fact that they decided to release it to, the general public and not just for developers, I think was a really great way to get interest in the company and to raise the awareness of LLMs. And, now we can start to think about debate about what's the best engine and which company gives the best ROI. But at the end of the day, I think they really started this whole noise. And I think I wish I was there when they did that.
Excellent. Satish?
I'd like to add a little bit on. So I'm talking about virtual assistants, but I wanted to have a hardware-enabled virtual assistant. So something, because I really was involved and still believe that urban and suburban gardening and farming needs more help, needs some software and virtual assistants. And that could be through some IoT hardware that works alongside things like LLMs and machine learning tools and computer vision tools to give you a great assistant to basically take care of your plants so that they don't die on you. They get enough sunlight, so you can maybe even harvest strawberries in your patio, so things like that. So a virtual assistant for planting, gardening, specifically in the urban and suburban environments. So that's something that I would love to create. Yeah.
I would buy that because I kill plants religiously. So definitely buy that.
Awesome.
I don't have enough sunlight to kill the plant, so I'm good. I'm good. So my answer, I went a little bit old school. I went with a physical product. My answer, baking soda. Baking soda, it's one of the simplest, most versatile products ever made. It's an essential ingredient in baking. It cleans, deodorizes, can put out fires. It's a product that people continuously find new uses for. Recently, there's an MIT course, and I was reading about this. The course is called Coffee Matters, Using the Breaker Space to Make the Perfect Cup, which sounds like a course I would have taken if they had let me in. I wanted to pause for sadness. That I went to Carnegie Mellon, so we did okay. In this course, they found that adding a pinch of baking soda to your coffee can fix it from tasting too bitter. Something that they also recommend for anyone who buys any coffee from Starbucks. And on that note, if it's too acidic, add salt, they say. So it's a tremendously great product, baking soda, always solving more problems than originally intended. And with a product lifespan of over a century, I really can't think of another product I would have liked to have gotten credit for having created.
Yeah, nice one.
Oh, thank you. So with that said, we're going to just dive right into our first topic. Our first topic is balancing product vision with market realities, aligning ambition with execution. Sometimes we shoot for the moon and then we realize that wasn't even almost realistic where we were going there. Or maybe we're shooting for just getting across the street, and that might have been a bit too ambitious as well for that particular product. So I really want to start, and before we get started, I want to tell the audience it's a roundtable conversation. So if you have questions, if you have comments as we're going through all these conversations, please make them in the chat room. And I just noticed Becky really likes my baking soda. Thank you, Becky. So yes, please post your questions in. I'll work people into the conversation as best I can. More comments, more observations, point of views, questions, the better it makes. It's really what makes TPG Live the unique thing that it is, the unique show that we have here. So to get started, I really want to just throw out this question to the roundtable that we can see, as well as the roundtable off screen in the chat room. How do you keep, and let's start with you, Corin. How do you keep teams aligned with product vision when short-term priorities constantly shift?
That's a great question. So I would start with, when you design a vision as a product manager, it's not just for us and it's not just for management. I think it's really important to align that with our teams, and that's what I try to do all the time. So my team understands what is our long-term vision and what is our short-term vision. And in each quarter, I always try to define our OKRs for that quarter, and then try to tie every deliverable that we do to an OKR. So the team don't only understand the really short-term commitment that we have, but they understand what it's tied to. And so it helps them make better decision, and it helps keep them aligned with the vision. And so I think that really, really helps when we work with development teams to kind of tie those two ends and make sure that they're aligned with the vision.
So you mentioned OKRs, and I wanted to kind of double click into that, because I think a lot of folks who do implement OKRs, things tend to go off the tracks, or they become so onerous. OKRs just make everyone very uncomfortable, I'll say, in the most generous way possible. So So if you're using OKRs to keep things on track, what are you doing to keep the OKRs themselves on track?
Well, you have to keep them very simple, and you have to make sure that you can measure everything. So if I have something that is, if I set a goal for myself, it can't be overcomplicated. It can't be something that nobody understands what it is. It can't be something that's too vague. It has to be something very concrete and very measurable. So that's how I would make sure that it's something that we don't lose ourselves within our OKRs.
Can you give a few examples?
For an
Because
OKR?
I think, yeah, because I think everyone knows what concrete and measurable, they all say, everyone says they know, but then I go in and I meet a team, I look at their OKRs, and then I go, oh my God. So any advice there or any simple example you could share?
So very simple example is we have X amount of users and we want to grow that by 80%. We want to grow that by 20%. That's a very simple example. But with every product, you have to understand what's the North Star metric for you, and then make sure that you build your goals around that. So it has to be, you can, it is sometimes hard to define something that's very concrete and measurable, but the simplest, like it's a Occam razor, like the simplest you go, that's like the best answer. And I see even with myself, like I see sometimes we try to overcomplicate things, that doesn't work. Like try to go simplify, and then maybe next quarter you can find something that's a little bit more sophisticated. But start with the simplest things that you can measure.
Excellent. Satish, let's go back to the original question with you. And how do you keep teams aligned with product vision when short-term priorities are constantly shifting?
First of all, I think the vision has to be broken down into what's achievable in the short term and long term. So steps to get to that long term vision. As people say, success doesn't happen overnight. So there could be prototypes, there could be focus groups, there could be various stages that you go through to achieve that vision, and there could be stages and gates along that path that helps you define and understand if maybe you have to change that. And also, if you change that, do you change it for a short-term purpose? Just your long-term vision still stays the same, but are you changing just those few steps that you're talking about in the path, on the path there? So I think that's quite important, stage gate process, while you're also breaking down that vision into more tangible outcomes. And when breaking down is definitely has to be done alongside the team's help. You definitely need engineering's input. You definitely need sales input to make sure that everybody's in. They understand that this is how it's broken down and this is how it's going to be delivered, so that they and so that we are all on the same page and that it's also documented. And I did like what you mentioned about the measuring, because again, when you're talking about OKRs or just KPI, just a simple metric, whatever, we need those to decide if you're staying on track or if you're pivoting. So I think I would agree with that, and I would like to add what he has said to it. So, yeah.
Excellent. You Satish, you just mentioned like a little bit about that long-term vision and breaking it down and trying to stay aligned with it. But my question is, what's a sign that people should be looking out for that product vision needs to evolve versus really staying on the course?
It has to evolve versus staying on the course. Disruption can happen. So we definitely, the initial market intelligence is a big thing. So again, that's part of the role. So being aware of competition and are you going to disrupt yourself, all that matters. But another big thing is, I think the market intelligence is a big factor. I'm curious. I might want a minute to think on this.
Corin, how about you tackle it? What is a sign that you look for that tells you that your product vision needs to change?
So I would start with, are my goals met? If I'm going back to my OKRs, first of all, I would want to see, are my goals met? It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily in the right direction, right? Because I may have set like the wrong goals, but that's the first thing that I would look for. I have to by the way, set the goals in a way that do look at the market and make sure that I look at revenue and I look at customers and I look at all of these things. I agree with Satish. I mean, if we have to look at the market and we have to make sure that the market doesn't shift in a way that makes us need to change our vision. We also need to see like just simple things. Are we like bleeding customers? Like, are we losing something to our competitors? Like really simple things that we should be monitoring all the time. These are the things that I would look for to try to reevaluate and see whether I need to try to make a change to my product vision.
Actually, just to add to what Corin said, yeah, churn can be a great um, can greatly be informative on how you have to change your vision. We definitely have to learn from it, and of course, churn is more important in SaaS companies, but it's even more important even when you have perpetual licensing and other models as well. So I believe that's quite important, and we. And again, I don't want to sound cliche by saying we have to talk to more customers, but of course, there's that because when we talk about a big account being churned, they might already know something. So we definitely have to engage them. So yeah, sometimes loud customers might have a valid point to say, and sometimes they won't. So we do have to be aware why customers are being loud, I believe.
Yeah,
So
I actually conducted.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
actually, my last company, I conducted like an offboarding interview with a customer. I think that's really eye-opening. They were really honest and told us everything. And if you can do that, I really like they're
What
honest because
what type of
yeah.
product is this?
So it was a previous company was Big Panda. It was an IT operation. So we was working mainly with like IT and NOC teams. And there was a customer that like was really happy to share why they offboarded. And we could, if we would have like noticed, we could have seen that coming. So it was a very, very good like indicator to what we should do next.
One thing that Corin just reminded me of on the topic of offboarding. So we have to talk. We also have to consider what stage the product is in the life cycle, right? So is it early growth? Is it just an MVP? Or are you intentionally sunsetting it because you're going to create a new SaaS product? Because that, at least in the industry that I've been in, there's a lot of companies that used to have desktop products, perpetual licensing based, and now they want to move to a SaaS based product. And there's a lot of issues, hiccups. Um, Customers can move. Sometimes there's regulations that cause it, so we do have to understand those. So the product lifecycle stage is also quite an important thing that affects your vision, alongside everything else that we spoke about.
So Satish, you were talking earlier about maybe sometimes listening to the loudest customer in the room and kind of dealing with those types of external pressures. What are some of those other large external pressures that force teams to change direction? And what advice do you have for kind of dealing with some of them?
I think number one that people tend to ignore is tech debt. I think that could go to a point where you could have your product fail itself. You don't even have to worry about external stuff. I think some companies ignore tech debt to their own peril. So
Well,
there's definitely that.
what do you mean by what do you mean by tech debt as a pressure?
Well, as product people, we want to make sure that customers have the best experience when you're using the product. And tech debt is definitely just opposite to that, because you're talking about bugs, you're talking about workarounds, you're talking about people being okay with, again, the word okay. They're not happy about it, they're not impressed by it, they're not amazed by it, they're fine or okay with it. So that could be a big issue event. So we do have to be honest about and learn from the tech debt. In
I
addition,
think for tech debt, my own POV on technical debt is sure we'll deal with it, but I'd always put a big but in there. And Corin, I see that you're nodding also, so I'll go to you because I feel like you might have another opinion on this. Is I still am going to weigh it from a perspective of business value and user value. So like I'm going to look at it from that perspective. So I'm not going to fix technical debt or fix a bug because I don't like this bug. I'm going to fix it because I think it's going to contribute to the one of my important KPIs or one of my important goals that I'm working towards, versus just tackling technical debt because I don't like that part of the backlog. So that's my perspective, Corin, and then I'll come back to you, Satish, to finish your idea there, your thoughts there. Corin, did you have another perspective? I'm just going to you because I saw you doing a lot of nodding there.
So tech debt, I think it's always a balance, right? And you're right that we shouldn't fix tech debt just for the sake of tech debt. And I think Satish was also talking about like we need to make sure that tech debt does serve a purpose. So if we fix it, it does serve a purpose. So if we cannot scale because we have tech debt, then we have to fix it, right? And we may fix it in, maybe not in a perfect way to start with. Maybe we'll fix it, like we'll just do an MVP for the tech debt, if you will. But then, at some point, sometimes you do have to go into the weeds and make sure that you build it properly. So like, I can give an example. Like if you built an MVP and it was just to see whether customers are actually going to use your product, but at some point they do use your product, but then it just keeps like failing because there's too many users, because there's too much data and you didn't plan for it, then you do have to kind of go in and fix it, even though it's not sexy. At the same time, I would always say you have to make sure that your roadmap is balanced, right? So you always have to fix tech debt, but also make sure that you give some new value out. So it's not just like, we're just doing tech debt this quarter. You have to kind of mix it. And,
So I think you bring up a good point there, and then I'll go back to you, Satish. I think you bring up a good point. Like I'm gonna fix the technical debt, but in that context, as a product person, I'm not thinking like, oh, this is technical debt that needs to be fixed. I'm thinking, hey, I have a problem with, what was it? It was user retention, I think was what you were saying, or if I don't know if I manifested that. But so if I'm trying to deal with user retention, I'm going to say this is what I want to accomplish. If I'm then told, hey, we have technical debt related to it, that's going to make it cost a little bit more, then I'll weigh that into account when I'm weighing that particular capability that I'm asking for. Just saying that, basically, the nuanced differences, I guess, I'm not thinking of it in terms of technical debt I need to address or want to address. I'm thinking about it of, hey, we're losing people because of this aspect of the product. And so, oh, we need to scale better because we are not handling the amount of people. And the fact that it's technical debt is second or third order in my thinking at that moment. Satish, let me go back to you because I know you had other stuff after technical debt.
No, I was just leading up that it also becomes more important when you're working with a lot of integrations and partners, because then they could also be quite sometimes pushy, but there's also information, right? There's also information that we have to gather from them. So that was another point I was trying to get. So we could overlook integrations and partners thinking, oh, fine, the revenue stream is coming in, but we might not have the necessary information that they have. And I think we definitely have to do a better job gathering that insight from them and having those check-ins, and that too for a product that has many integrations and partners. And I completely agree. I didn't mean to fix tech debt just to check it. Like, make sure.
Yeah, and I wasn't implying that you do. It's one of the most common areas, especially when it's a very common area, especially when I go in to talk to teams, and especially a lot of the consulting work that I do is I'll go in, I'll dive in, and I'll see, oh, this sprint is dedicated to technical debt. Product person's not even involved, and the tech team just doesn't like these problems. No one knows the value other than it annoys people inside the company, not about the business value, not about the user value. And so I thought you gave me kind of a great opportunity to do a little bit of side teaching, I thought, in addition to that core question there. Corin, what's a tough trade-off you've had to make to balance ambition and execution?
Yeah, so I'll give an example from my previous company. I went in as a product manager, and 3 weeks in, I shifted to a data product manager because I realized at some point that we don't have like a proper data warehouse. We have all these questions we cannot answer. And on one hand, there are all of these things that people wanted to know. And we could have done like ad hoc analysis that could take 2 weeks for you to gather the data from somewhere. But I said, well, we kind of need like a proper data warehouse. Let's try doing that. And so I started building it with like a team. There was like a task force. It wasn't even a team at the time. But at the same time, as I said before, it was very important to me to give some kind of value from the really minimal thing that we had to in order to do that. Now, the trade-off here was that a lot of people came to me all the time with questions. Can you do this analysis? That we really want to know this about the customers. Can you do that? As I'm literally building the infrastructure to support that. So I couldn't say no all the time, right? You have to like balance your no's and balance your yeses and explain why you're saying no. Why is it important for me to now take some time to build the infrastructure while giving like really minimal value, but still giving that value, and making sure that they know that we cannot accommodate everything. But once we've built that platform, it did take like 6 months to have like the foundation laid out. Once we built that, it was much, much easier to, get to all of the other requests that came in. So I had to do a trade-off of, I can't give you all of the immediate value now because I'm literally building it, but it will pay off. And at some point, people got it when everything was in place. And yeah.
So I feel like there's something being left out of this story. The reason the reason I say that is I've seen similar scenarios that have never gone that smoothly in my 20 plus years of doing this. What was the trick? How did you get people on board with that? Like everyone is going to say, that's nice. Oh, I hear you. I totally understand. That's cool. I still need I want the analysis tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
So-
or I'm not waiting 6 months, or like, oh, we'll get to it, like they're etc. I'll let you answer.
So I think it was working in a few angles together. One of them was get sign on from leadership that said, yes, go ahead and build it. And here's the budget, here's the team. Do whatever you need to do in order to make sure that it's in place. I think that
So
was the first thing.
You even had a budget. That's nice. That's a nice.
I actually had a nice budget. Yeah, at some point, but it took a lot of convincing. So what we did is we started with like a really, really small MVP, and we showed a dashboard, because if you show a table and database, nobody cares. But if you show a dashboard, then people are like, oh, wow, that looks really nice. There's colors and things go up and down. So we showed that, and we said, well, this is this is what we can do. This is what we did in like a month. If you give us 6 months, these are all of the questions that we can answer. I literally like wrote, I don't know, like 25 questions that people had in mind that we couldn't answer. Or I could, but it would take me 3 weeks to answer each. So I think getting that buy-in and budget and everything from management really, really helped. That's the first thing we did. The second thing is everybody that came in with a request, I chatted with and explained the whole process, explained the whole vision, why we cannot do it now, why the other thing that we gave priority for is more important. Kind of like told the story internally so people could understand where we're going to. So that was like, I'm not going to say it was easy. It's never easy. It's like a lot of work, but you kind of have to make sure that you do that and you communicate your vision and you communicate everything that you're planning to do, so people are on board with what you're trying to do.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Satish, same question to you. What's a tough trade-off you've had to make to balance ambition and execution?
An example that I'd like to give is we were trying to process manufacturing drawings using OpenCV to extract information and automatically do half or more than half of the job that people were using our software for. But the thing is, this was in 2017 and 18 when the computer vision models that we were using weren't that great, let's say. But at the same time, that was like the number one metric for the success of the product. How quickly can they extract that information and then deliver it into reports and consider their job done? But at the same time, we had loud customers. We had many partners pushing us to do different things. There was a big customer who was a big portion of the revenue, and they wanted certain things done, or else they were more than happy to walk away. And we also had other problems that could have caused churn. So trying to balance all of that, we did have to show some, going back to some of what Karan said about creating an MVP. So we did have to have, we had an ML engineer show us some initial prototypes with what is capable from that technology that we were trying to develop. We showed that alongside project plans for and the cost associated to the loud customer for what they wanted, to help them compare, like, if we're doing this versus what you're asking for, you're gonna get this later than normal, though you need this as well. So we helped them understand what they're trading off for, and that actually helped. And we ended up actually working on the computer vision based product, though, and the loud customer, they were fine with having their requirements focused on at a later time. So I completely agree with what Karan said about having that MVP generated and showing them that, and also helping them understand the trade-offs with respect to costs. Yeah.
Corin, what's one mistake you've seen teams make when trying to balance vision and execution? Or more mistakes. You don't have to stick with one.
When they try to balance, so I think one big thing is they try to do everything at once, and I've seen this. I've seen this a lot. So you have all of these requests coming from customers. You have management, and you have sometimes investors, and you have partners, as Satish said, and you have everybody like breathing down your neck, and you want to please everybody, right? And the problem with being a good product manager is that you cannot be a people pleaser. That's a problem because I am a people pleaser. But you just cannot be one, and you have to say no. You have to learn to say no. That's the first thing you have to learn in product management, I think. So I think one of the mistakes that team make is they try to do everything. And I think you should always think critically of your vision. So you cannot just say, I defined a vision and that's what I'm going to do for the next 3 years. But keeping that in mind is that if you have set a vision and you don't have any indicators that you need to change it, I would say stick to that vision and make sure that your execution is aligned with that vision. And make sure that you have a lean execution, like a lean roadmap for now, so you don't like try to overdo it. And I think that's the biggest mistake that I see team make, including teams that I was in.
Playing devil's advocate on that one, I'd say, if I don't have indicators, if nothing's indicating that I might have the wrong vision or I might be on the wrong track, shouldn't that also be a red flag to me that I probably don't have great indicators?
Yeah, change your indicators, and then maybe change your vision. But if you do, if you believe that your indicators are right and you can measure them, then stick to those measurements. If you don't get good results, change it.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering, what would be like the simplest examples I could give? I mean, I was thinking that somebody should be using it, should be like the absolutely simplest indicator. A customer or inside the prospect, something, partner should be using it. And if they don't even want to touch it, if they don't want to use it, then obviously that gives us the signal that we require. But I was wondering if there's any other even more simpler indicators or OKRs that we might want to talk about.
So I think it really depends, like, we need to think about B2B separately from B2C, right? And most of my life, I'm in B2B. With B2C, I think I don't want to say easier. It's never easy. But with B2C, it's like, are they using my product? Are they using my feature? Do they want to use it? Are they keep using it? Am I growing my customer base? With B2B, sometimes the customers use your product because someone in management decided that that's the product they're going to use. and they're using it. They may hate it to death. They may like want to kill you every day, every morning that they come to work, but they still use it because they have no choice. So you do need to talk to your customers and make sure you understand what they're doing. Something I like to do in these situations, and I did that in my last company, is just sit with them as they use the product and seeing all the little pains that they have. Or, sometimes they do something in the product that you have had no idea that they use. Even if you look at like recordings and, there are all a lot of tools that can allow you to do that. But sometimes when you see someone use the product, yeah, that's when. So it really depends what type of product.
I agree with that comment. We used to
Yeah.
have a user testing station in one of the companies that I used to work for, and we actually had people sitting beside me with some even physical instruments that they had to use during the process as they were using the software. And I learned a lot specifically around user experience, the way that they're expecting things to work versus that was not what the software was doing at all. So that really redefined some of our objectives.
Yeah, the reason I asked that initial question was because a lot of time there should always be pressures. There should always be pressures or signals that there are other paths to take. So if you don't at least have some hint that there's another way to go, or there's another path, or something that might be competitive with your vision, then you're probably not looking at the whole picture. You're missing something. You're missing something there. Let's see here. Last question for this topic is, and I'll throw this as a toss-up. Let's see who wants to catch it. Have you ever had a big product vision fail because execution couldn't keep up? What happened? Tossed it up, and it landed on Corin.
So, I wouldn't say complete vision failure, but I think the major thing that keeps happening, which I try to avoid as much as I can, but sometimes it happens, is major delays. So you have a vision, you think that you're going to be at some point in a quarter, and then at some point in a year, and then your project is delayed because it wasn't lean enough and you try to push too many things in, and then by the time you get to your 6 months, you're kind of like, you have to change your vision because the market changed and customer base changed, and now you have an enterprise customer that came with like a promise in their contract, and so everything changed. So I fear that sometimes sales, yeah, I feel that sometimes delays like kill our vision, because not kill, but like hurt our vision, because we expect to be somewhere and we don't always get there on time, and that really hinders the other things that we're trying to do.
Yeah, that actually gave me some time to think about the answer. And yes, we were trying to build a product that would have been a completely new revenue stream for the company that I was working for. And because of that, there was definitely a little bit of hesitation initially from management, from partners, and so on. But the other big thing that led to the failure was that the MVP that was created was completely dependent on a partner's product. And unfortunately, the partner got bought out by competition before the release of the MVP. And though we were all very close to the release of the MVP, so that definitely kind of put a big wrench into the plan, and it really didn't recover after that because a lot of priorities changed, and we just couldn't gather that level of interest back into that product again.
Gotcha. So we're about to switch over to our trivia segment. So just so everyone remembers, when we do our trivia segment, feel free to talk, share ideas. Don't share the answer. Whether you're in the chat room or you're on camera, don't say the answer. We're going to get to the answer at the end, and we'll see who knows it at that point. So we definitely want everyone to stick around, especially if you know the answer. But we're going to do trivia, and you could say anything you want. Perspective, share your thinking, your inner monologue, as long as that inner monologue doesn't say the answer.
Which company made the term minimum viable product, MVP, famous? Once again, which company made the term minimum viable product, also known as MVP, famous?
All right, so that's the trivia question. Did you guys have anything you wanted to say before we start the next topic? No? All right. Definitely don't say the answer. All right. All right. So now we're going to get into the sect adoption, uncovering the psychology of your users, understanding their inner minds, their inner dreams and hopes, their desires, what makes them tick. And so just like for the rest of this roundtable, the rest of TPG Live, please submit your questions, your perspectives, share your thoughts. And like I said, we'll work on getting those questions to the roundtable and answered for you. So let's start with this, the first one. Satish, what's a surprising lesson you've learned about how people decide to try or stick with a new product?
I would actually like to use what Corin said a little bit earlier about how sometimes people are just they believe that they're stuck with using a product just because that's what the company's been doing. So there is that, and that's more common in B2B. That's definitely the case. So we do have to first understand what they're trying to, the number one thing that they're trying to achieve with that product, and see if the new solution or the alternate solution or the new feature that we're trying to offer can completely achieve that. Because there's always this number one thing, like creating a tech manual or creating a report, creating a dashboard. I don't know, any of these things that could be. There's definitely that number one thing that they want to get done. And again, as a job, they just want to get it done as quick as possible. And that's where user experience becomes a big thing, I believe. So yeah, that's really from a B2B case. I actually don't have experience in B2C, so I wouldn't say anything there.
All right, Corin, to you.
So I think what surprises me is that you always think that people will go with a product that has like a good design, good flow, and that's what we're trying to build, right, all the time. But I find that sometimes people, and it's not always easy to predict, but sometimes people get like sentimental. There's no other way for me to say it, but like, you know how some people still use Craigslist or like pages that or websites that, you know, were relevant maybe 20 years ago, and today maybe not so much. Or I think it surprised me even like 10 years ago, because there are so many other websites that were better than Craigslist. But people
But I
sometimes,
guess, is that
yeah,
sentimental or just not knowing about an alternative?
I think
'Cause
they know.
when you said Craigslist, I don't know where else I should go.
No, I mean, depends what you're trying to find, right? And it depends on the country you're in. But you know that if you want to buy a house, you go to Zillow, right? And if you know that
Sure.
if you want to, so you know where you need to go to, but it's sometimes so embedded that people are kind of like, oh, sure, like I'll just open Craigslist. And maybe it's like for people who are older. Sorry, I'm like in that group, and not people who are younger. So
I'm gonna say I'm in the younger group, even though it's probably not true.
Yeah, I believe you, Jeremy. So I think maybe it's just like you stick to what you know. Maybe not sentimental, but it's just like it's not easy to move to a new product, and the incentive needs to be very, very high for you to change whatever you know.
Yeah, that's a good example I'd like to give was Perplexity. I introduced Perplexity to a lot of people that were just using Google search, and they actually said they were quite happy with what it did compared to what Google search was doing. So
Really?
well, you don't think
I tried it. I hated it.
you like search?
I wanted to like it. I don't like Google. Google search result sucks. Perplexity, like I couldn't get it to do what I wanted. I found I could get Gemini to do some like online research for me. So Gemini I found good as I found Gemini to be good as a search replacement or supplement. Yeah, supplement is the more appropriate, not a replacement. And I know how Google works, so I know how to craft my search for it. Perplexity, I tried, and and I wanted to like it, and I wanted to use it, and I was just like, it's not working. This doesn't work for me. I don't. It's like even when I went with like the classic thing, like what was it? Find me the best watch for a kid, or like maybe like kind of like shopping oriented, where it's so hard on Google search to know what's real and what's just an ad. And so that's where I've always heard kind of Perplexity kind of would shine, and I just couldn't find a query that did it for me.
Interesting. Okay.
My side rant. But, sorry, go on. I cut you off there with that.
No, I think it goes back to what you mentioned, the whole querying. Like, I don't want to say, maybe I am better at querying. Like, I guess, like, it's just, it's just you have to, I think it, as you said, it's a matter of you have to know what to ask, and you sometimes it definitely doesn't give you the answer the first time. You might have to pester it a bit, but then I think it definitely, well, at least based on my experience recently, I definitely think it does a better job than simple Google search. I do agree Gemini is different. I meant just search bar. So
yeah, I think for Google, I understand it. I know what it's going to give me, so I know how to work with it. And I go, okay, my answer is going to be around page 5. So let's get there, and then we'll start getting what I want. And then if I go to page 8, then we're out of the zone again. But what other? So for both of you, like, what other surprising lessons have you learned about how people try to decide to try or stick with a new product?
One thing is doing the job for them, like showing an example. Like, for example, getting some input from them and then doing it and then giving them the end result. And if they're impressed with the end result, I've seen people jump on board.
Corin, or actually, before I get to my next question, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, we can move on.
All right. So this is for you. What is the biggest mistake product teams make when trying to drive adoption?
So again, really depends if you're like in the B2B or B2C market. But I would say generally, if you bug your customers too much, then they're going to get annoyed and they're not going to use your product. So if you reach out too much, like you send emails and you send push notifications and you try to you have good intentions because you're trying to say, hey, we have a new feature, or hey, like, look what we built here, or hey, I'm sure this is going to be great for you. If you push your customers too much, like we're being bombarded with like messages that we have to answer from school, your kid's school, from work. Like we have our Slack, we have our email, we have like all of our obligations. If I have to cater to a company that's trying to push me to use their product, I'm not going to use their product. So I see that a lot. So yeah, I would say that's my pet peeve.
Satish, have you seen any other mistakes being made for driving user adoption?
No, I actually disagree with her. Yeah.
So let me go on to the next part of that. And what are some simple ways to, I guess, remove friction in the user journey to increase that user adoption?
I have seen some success in inbuilt walkthroughs. So tools like Pandas and WalkMe and so on, because it's a little bit more interactive rather than a video or a training manual or even a chatbot for that instance. Chatbots. I don't think they're that great anyway. So anyway, coming back to walkthroughs, I think interactive walkthroughs might be the best way because you're literally helping them get through the product, helping them see what it can do and so on. Yeah.
I would emphasize, please make them optional.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
There's too many walkthroughs that I'm forced through that I'm just like, I'm not even paying attention anymore. Just clicking as fast as I can.
I mean, it depends on the product for sure. I mean, let's say you go into like another new project management tool, like the new one in the market. Of course, people know there's going to be tickets and boards and so on. Why would you want to go through the whole walkthrough there. Again, just a random example I wanted to give.
I know I run into some random walkthrough popping up in a product every few days, and I'm not trying a lot of new products, so like I just know they just keep popping up, and I'm just like, just go away. If you give me a walkthrough option, I'll opt into it if I need it, but otherwise, let me just see what you're doing here. Same to you, Corey.
So I would say, let me try the product fast. So like, don't make not just the walkthrough, but like, don't make the onboarding too tedious. Just let me try the product fast and let me opt in. So if I skip the onboarding, but now I actually have a question or I want to, let me go back to it, but maybe let me go back to this little bit that I want and not like just all of it, and it's going to take me like 15 minutes just to go through it. Just let me like question the thing that I actually care about.
I would to add to that, I've seen some products that I really wanted to try, and then the first thing is a paywall. They want the credit card before they even let you play with it for like 5 minutes. They want,
or worse, like approach the sales team. That's worse, right?
You have to talk to them first.
Give you a phone number.
Right.
So, Corin, you're talking about making the onboarding process easier. What are some specific steps that a product team could take to make that onboarding process easier? Besides, just giving a phone number, because everyone totally loves having to.
Oh, definitely. Phone number that I can text to. Yeah, please. I would say keeping it very minimal. Like, don't ask for too many of my personal details. Like, let me log in very simply, like with either like Google login, like just any SSO. Don't make me create just a user just for you, because I'm just not gonna bother. So let me log in very fast. Let me play with the product as much as I can. Like, it's okay if you limit me in the amount of whatever transactions, data, just it's fine to limit me. But yeah, as Satish said, just like don't let me hit a paywall like in the first second that I'm using the product. And I think when you do that, and if you have just like supporting materials, like videos that I can opt in, again, not I have to, but if I can opt in and kind of see like the different ways to do things in the product, that really, really helps sometimes. So I don't have to go over and read your manual. I can just like watch a 2-minute video that shows me something. That also really helps.
That's Satish, you go first, and then I'll put my 2 cents.
Yeah, I wanted to add 2 things actually. So specifically on products that are maybe like middleware, like Zapier is. I'm not pointing any fingers at Zapier, but I'm using that as an example. So products like that where the integrations are required sometimes make you go through a lot of steps before having something valuable done. So when you start counting those number of steps, you could get to a point where you get frustrated. So I think to show proof of value a little bit quicker would be nice in that scenario. And another scenario I wanted to highlight is the new marketplaces that are coming up, like the Azure marketplace and other marketplaces, or even the Windows marketplace. If you want to try to get an app from there, you have to jump through hoops. That too, if it's a paid app, my goodness, it's just frustrating. So I think those things would definitely be frustrating during onboarding.
So it's Zapier?
I was
Zapier?
I'm not pointing them out. I was just, you want to do
No. I always called it Zapier, like Zapier, not Zapier. So I've just learning how to pronounce things today.
I'm learning too. Yeah.
So you both brought this up with respect to the paywall. Zapier, like happier. All right. Thank you, Sam. You both brought up the paywall, and back in the day, in the olden times, at the beginning of all this, where I started, everything was free, and you gave everything away for free, and eventually you figured out the business model, and et cetera. evolved quite a bit to really to, hey, you got to charge people for your product. You don't give it away for free. And I get with helping people see the value, but I really want to charge you. I want to charge you out of the gate because my product's worth something out of the gate. And so I'm putting that out there as maybe a controversial opinion to see if anyone wants to argue with me.
Yeah, I'll take the bait. All right, so I think it depends on a few things. First of all, you can say it's free for 2 weeks, and then you have to start paying. That's a good alternative, I think. Or you can do a week. You can do, any amount of time that you're comfortable with. It doesn't have to be like free for 6 months. It can be like a short amount of time. And then someone sees the value, and then they're like, oh, sure, I'll pay whatever you're charging me for, as long as I don't have to call anyone. The second thing is, it depends where you are as a company. If you're a startup that just started, or if you're Zapier, then it really...
Or Zapier. I don't know which way. I don't... if we go with Samuel, then it's Zapier is happier. So
Zapier. Okay. So
but
it really
I don't know
depends.
who he is.
So it really depends who you are, right, as a company. And so...
Nice segue. I like that.
So when you're a startup that's, you're new and you want people to try out your product, make it as simple as possible for them to use it. Yeah, sorry, Samuel, we can't really help you with questioning who you are, but we can try maybe at the end. But yeah, so it really depends on where you are as a company. And if people really know your product, then yeah, I think that you can charge them off the gate. If you're a startup and you're trying to get more customers, or you're trying to get any customers to use your product, try to simplify it as much as you can.
I say simplify, but charge.
Well, we can agree to disagree.
Make sure the value's there. Like you got to be delivering value. If you don't have value, what are you charging for? But you find that smallest nugget of value that people will want to pay for. That's just
will you do that with your first customers? I mean, don't you want to get, I don't know, X amount of customers in, and then start charging?
Why?
Because maybe it would just get you more customers that you can experiment on.
But I'm experimenting now. I'm trying to figure out what I can offer that makes people pay money.
Yeah, true. Depends on what your goal is, right? What's
money.
Your yeah,
money.
Always a good goal.
So there's a lot of ways to do it. I feel that things have kind of evolved.
So are you against the freemium model then?
I think there's a place for free. I think you can do freemium, but I'm probably gonna still get your credit card information so that it converts you. I'll give you a warning. Hey, we're gonna start charging you next week, but I built something that I think is valuable for you to pay for. If I'm testing, then fine. I could be doing some testing or doing some MVPs. I'm not gonna charge for an MVP. But once I've got a product where it's out there and I'm trying to get users, if I can't figure out how to message something that I have value, and I'm trying to then I got to figure out what that message is to make people say, hey, I'd want to put money, I'd want to pay for that, and I'd want to pay this amount for that. So that to me that's one of my highest risks for the product. Maybe if there's a walkthrough, maybe I do a video instead of to kind of get you excited. There's a lot of ways I might go about it, but I'm trying to get you to pay money as early in that process as possible. Freemium is definitely has its place as you both have said. But I think I really want to get you. I want to get the dollar signs moving, and so I'm going to aggressively see what I can do to get people to pay at the start, not give something away for free. I think too many companies fall into that trap of they give it away for free. They got 100,000 users, and none of them will ever pay. Like, what have you done? You just spent like all this money. You burnt through maybe you did VC. You burnt through all this capital. And now what? Like, you haven't figured out how to sell it. And you could have spent the last year trying to figure out how to get people to pay for it, as opposed to just scaling up the number of people using it. And even if you upset some people that you reach out to, where, hey, maybe you charge too much, hopefully you have a large enough potential user base there that you can keep trying new ideas until you find that thing that gets people to pay. And that's my take. But
yeah, pricing has to be developed iteratively, right? So based on that, I think I agree with your approach, provided we have a good enough customer, user base, prospect base.
But I think the thing is, I'm saying you got to put that really early in the process.
Really early.
I think too many places are put that too far down the road, and unless you're an extremely rare sort of company, like you got to do it up front, and you got to it's got to be like first or second, because think about it. What are your top risks? Will people pay for this? Right? You need to get that validated quick and early. And if I'm like 6 months in and I've got people using it, I still don't know if they'll pay for it. Well, that's kind of a risk to my business, and it might be the one that kills it. So I'm going to prioritize solving that problem first.
Yeah.
Or near the top. You know, like maybe the first problem is, can I build what I want? And then second, will people pay for it?
Satish and I are idealists. We don't think about the profit. Maybe we should, Satish.
We should, definitely should. I guess we're thinking. Yeah,
there's no one right answer, and I'll just say, like, I have strong opinions, but at the same time, what I also appreciated is everyone's got different perspectives, different opinions. There's no one right way to do product management. So I just wanted to put that out there. You have any tips, Corin? Do you have any tips for turning a skeptical user into a loyal one? You know, besides giving it to them for free.
No, I'm not going to do that anymore. So the first thing is, like, the most important thing, I think, is listen to what they have to say. I think sometimes we're so enthusiastic in telling them what we want to build, what's the next feature is going to be, what the next iteration is going to look like, that we don't listen to them enough. And I think sometimes when you listen to customers, then that really helps. That's the first thing that really helps. And the second thing is to make sure that they're bought into your vision. So if you listen to them and then you try to break down their problems and how the vision that you're executing now is going to handle those problems, then I think that's a really good way for them to say, hey, you know, this person really understands me, really understands my problems, and like get them bought in and like hop on the vision wagon, if you will, and then make sure that they're there with you.
Has lots of rainbows on that.
Yeah, and unicorns. And so just make sure that... How
could I forget?
Yeah. I have 2 girls, so, you know, unicorns.
I have one, and rainbow and unicorn did kind of strike a chord there.
And so, yeah, so I think that's like a good way that I've communicated with customers in the past, and make sure that they're really brought in. And I was surprised by, you know, the next time we talk, they're like, hey, what's going on with, you know, this thing that you wanted to develop? And then, you know, we talk through that, and I think that really helps to build that trust.
Satish, same to you. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to add on what Corin said by also trying to understand what they are going to ask in the future. Yes, you might get them on board at that point, helping them understand at that point to get something done. But once they start using it, they're going to start asking for more, or they're going to ask for fixes. And ideally, if you can foresee some of them and talk about that earlier, it's great. But obviously, we can't foresee everything. So having a conversation about that with them was quite helpful and impactful, I would think so, to help them. Because you could also come with ideas saying, like, these are all the pathways that we could go, and what would you think? So that would help them be a sticky user as well, I would believe, if they get on board with the vision long term.
Yeah. And also, if I can add, sometimes surprising them with their own data really helps. So you come
I
to
mean,
a
like,
meeting.
how did you get this data? This was on my computer.
No. It's the data that it's okay for me to get. But like, if you show them stats about what their users are doing, what's the most dominant issues that we see that they have, they really like that, because they feel like you're really looking into their world and trying to understand them. So I always try, when I talk to customers, I always try to make sure that I have some insights. So yeah, that really helps.
No, yeah, as Becky pointed out, yes, user activity data is what we're talking about. But unfortunately, the industries that I've been working in, we can't even have that because it's some in regulated industries or in some companies, they prefer on-premise products. And in those cases, you have no idea what they're doing. So conversations have to happen. And so it's definitely person-to-person conversations, and completely agree with what Corin said on listening to them before pitching them anything.
So Satish, I want to go to you for this one first, and then over to you, Corin. And tell me about a product. Give me an example of a product that made you feel something. You kind of had an emotional connection with, and kept you coming back because of that feeling.
I would say Spotify. I love Spotify. So the different things I love about it is, first of all, you can choose different playlists from your whole liked songs on what vibe you want. Are you going to work out? Are you want to just chill? Do you want some pop music? Do you want classical? Well, I say classical coming from like an Indian classical music, and so on. So you can do that. And at the same time, now they've released something known as a DJ feature. I don't know if you guys have tried it. It basically just, it's kind of like an AI DJ and you can also tell it what to do, kind of. Well, not tell it what to do, but it helps you. It understands from your previous songs and so on, and it switches songs from this artist to that artist and so on. So I really do like Spotify, and I love using it. Yeah.
Man, you picked that one. Makes me want to sound like a cranky old man. Say, man, I really don't like Spotify. I use Google Play Music. It used to be better. The UX has just been degrading over the years, but I still find it a little bit easier to use. Like Spotify, just where's my playlist? Where am I in the playlist? Like just the simple tasks that I want to do, I find it's just so clumsy to use, and it's just such, like, if I have a playlist, I start at the beginning, I play to the end, fine. But if I'm like jumping around, I just found it to be too clumsy. So yes, I'm like the grumpy old man on this one. I don't want to be that.
Well, I wonder, it might also be because sometimes I use it a lot with like the home devices like Google Home or Alexa, so it's a little easier to interact with it. You can tell it to play that artist, play this playlist, play this song, then next, or put shuffle, all that stuff.
Gotcha. So I'm in the app, and I don't like that world. I don't want to be there. Corin, same for you. What's a product that you've kind of had that emotional that feeling for?
So I may sound old as well, but I really like Pinterest. So I know it's very niche.
Okay.
Yeah, that's still around. But when I'm really into something, so like a few years ago, we redecorated our house, and I needed inspiration for like everything, right? Like kitchen, showers, kids' room, everything. And so it's just so easy because you just go in, you create your board, you find things you like, and you just put them on your board, and then you can always go back to that for inspiration. It's so simple, like stupid simple. I'm almost embarrassed to say this is a product I really like, but it's just, I think the simplicity, the fact that you can find pretty much anything. Like I want these type of tiles for the bathroom, whatever, you'll find it there. And yeah, so I really, really like it, and it's just easy to use. I think that's the main thing. Yeah, and can I say something about Spotify? Sometimes my kids go in the app and then they play their their songs, and then Spotify thinks I like them. And I know you can create profiles and you can do that, but my kids don't care. They just go into my app. And so, yeah, that really hurts the
I have
DJ
the
modes.
I have the exact same problem with Google Music because it's connected to all my devices on the Google Home devices that I've got here, and so the stuff that I get recommended is painful at best. It's like every princess song I get, and then I get singing monsters, which if you don't know what singing monsters are, they just make sounds. And so
Okay.
it's just like 9 hours of a monster going boop, boop, boop. So that's wonderful when that's in my recommendation. And then my wife listens to stuff in other languages that I don't know or understand. So my recommendation list becomes very eclectic. Ooh, there you go. It becomes very eclectic, and so I have that problem too. And again, it's because you use the home devices, and they don't. Even though even if you program the other voices in, it doesn't try to even match up the requests from one to the other. How can product teams make users feel confident and in control when using their product? Corin, let's go. Let's start with you.
I think making everything super clear. When there's ambiguity, then that's when user starts getting lost. When it's very clear where you need to go to do something, when it's very easy to search in the help topics if you need to. Even like there's an app that I have for my car insurance. This is like a really extremely niche, even more niche than Pinterest. But it's such a simple app. And like if you can't find something in the help topics, like there's like a chat and they answer really quickly. So it's like the whole experience is so good. Then so it's very clear how to do something. If it's not clear, they answer really quickly. It really makes me feel confident, and it's like an insurance company. I'm supposed to hate it, but I really like them. So they really gave me a good experience just by I needed to upload some documents or whatever, change something in the policy, and it was very, very easy. So be clear and be reachable, I would say, if needed.
Same to you, Satish.
Yeah, the be clear is definitely a good example, and by delivering an example, I guess, is a great way to be clear. So, meaning, I know I did mention walkthroughs before, but sometimes you should maybe give them a set of files that they can download and import and see all the options active depending on your product, or there are ways that you can make the UI as clear as possible. Walkthroughs and videos are obviously the most interactive ones, I guess. But trainings are good too. But the thing with trainings, I think people sometimes go off on tangents. They're like, how do I do that? How do I do this? And sometimes those tangents might actually lead to more confusion. So, but the good thing is, by doing that, we learn how to improve our UX. And I think that's a big thing. Going back to balancing about a lot of the things that we spoke about in a little bit earlier about tech debt and partners and stuff, I think UX enhancements is also something that we have to definitely throw in that mix there. And a very interesting statistic that I try to show to a lot of executives and the decision makers is the Forrester study that they said every $1 invested into UX can give you a return of $100. Yeah, I guess that's a little bit of a crazy ROI if you look at it from that point of view. But they published that study, and it's also supported by big shots like Nielsen Norman and so on. So yeah, you definitely have to learn from your user experience shortcomings and improve them.
Great. Anything else either of you want to add on this topic before I move on to this? We have some questions from the audience that didn't really fit any of the topics, but I want to make sure we get to them. Nothing? All right. Let me go to the first question. The first question, the person's asking, that's from Emmanuel. I'm new to product management. Can you kindly recommend companies I can volunteer or intern for? So I don't, Corin, Satish, I don't know if you have any companies that you might recommend, but I would also add, Let's see. People can also email me jhorn@theproductguy.com if they have others, and I am happy to add it to the notes for the show. So it's jhorn@theproductguy.com. But Cora and Satish, I don't know if you had maybe anything for that. That's always one of the trickier ones, but I wanted to put it out there.
I know some corporates like Google have internships. I know it's sometimes for graduates. I've
That's
never worked
nice
for
and easy
Google
to get into.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know any company firsthand, but I think I would go for, yeah, I would try that out. I mean, because you have nothing to lose. But yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
would.
to what Corin said, I think mostly the big companies are the ones that have like proper programs for internships for a product. Well, at least what I've seen is a lot of the smaller companies, and you tend to grow into product roles from other departments. So you most likely have to be that product specialist expert, and then you tend to grow into it. Is how I see it. So.
Yeah, there's no one that I would say I could point you to offhand. But like I said, if people email at jhorn@theproductguy.com, I'm happy to add that to the notes. I'd say it's one of those areas in product management that is lacking and needs improvement. If you look at some of the kind of the trees in general, you would expect, you have like, you kind of have a fat base to the tree of people you're bringing into the field and you're training and you're teaching. But I think some numbers I saw recently was like, it was in the single digits percentage of people who were being brought in as junior product people and being trained up. And I think it's definitely one of the weaker areas in product management. Even if you are coming in from one of the other, an adjacent field skill set, you still need training. You still need to be kind of taught the ropes, and because otherwise you end up getting people that just manage a backlog and aren't driving a strategy, and those are the product managers someone's complaining about. And so we definitely need to do better as a community in training product people and teaching product people and helping kind of show the ropes, like being in single digits percentage for the part of the pyramid that should be fattest. Isn't really the right way to grow a profession there. So hopefully TPG Live and some of the other things that I do help with that. But it's definitely one of those things that needs some work. Next question.
I would
comes
also
in from,
say,
yeah, go for
I would also say on that topic that it's really hard to get into a junior product role. That's just the reality of it. If you can transition within the company you're in from whatever role you're doing, QA, dev, to a product role, that's going to make it so much easier on you to find your next product role. It's very hard to find the first product role when you're coming outside. So it's either if you have like expertise in that industry or you have to have some. I'm not saying like 100%, but it's just easier if you start with a company that you're already familiar with, and then transition to another company, if possible.
Take any product job to get started. You
Exactly.
want that. You
Yeah.
want that. Once you get in, it opens up the rest for you. Which brings me to my next question from Sri, and Sri was asking, they would like to get an entry into product. What suggestions do either of you have? Let me start with you, Satish. I know you've got some good ideas there.
I have seen a lot of people from customer success and marketing be successful in product. So definitely there's that. And QA is how I got into product. I was initially a quality assurance engineer, and I ended up becoming product owner and then product manager and so on. So there's that. But I think you have to, first of all, show that you can have that strategy, as Jeremy just pointed out a bit before. Can you think like big level strategy, big level vision, and also can you pull that back to the ground and make it realistic and tangible? And if once you can show things like that, maybe you build a proof of concept yourself for a future. If you're a developer, that is, or maybe if you're QA too, or if you're customer success, maybe you gather a lot of these data and do like a semantic analysis about it, and generate some reports and show them, or things like that. If you're marketing, maybe you try to be the thought leader, and you show how you can be the thought leader, and you try to push for that. So I think there's those things. So based on the role that you're currently in, try to make sure that you can show that you are capable to make that jump, and then you will find a way to make that jump, I think. Yeah.
Corin, what advice do you have for them?
So I would say there are a lot of things that you can do. I agree with everything Satish said. You can also be very have a very public profile, like be very active on LinkedIn, and try to show what you are capable of, like Satish said. The second thing I would say is, like I've said before, if there's an industry you've worked in another role, could be project, could be QA, could be whatever, but you're very familiar with that industry, then that would give you an edge in trying to find a role in that industry, because you already know the industry, you may know like the competitors, you know the landscape. That gives you an edge, and try to be very creative in the way that you market yourself, because it's at the end of the day, it's all about marketing, right? So try to think about product marketing strategies and try to apply them on yourself. That would be something good to do when you're just starting out.
All right, so I got two questions from Becky. The first one is to both of you. Becky's asking, let's see, how can you help the leadership team get out of the obsession of data, but focus on product feature development? I'm guessing, I'm trying to, I'm reading between, not so much that they want data. I think they keep wanting more and more data before they pull the trigger on building a particular feature. I think that's probably what we're getting at there. Satish?
Yes, I would like to highlight that you as in the product manager and the executives and maybe everyone in the company should also be aware of the biases that exist in the industry and by yourself, and the biases that the developers might have and so on. So if you look at that and if you highlight that, you'll get some ideas about, in addition to data, what biases might exist and how you can overcome them. And I'm not talking about just overcoming biases. How does that also tie back into the vision and why you might want to build something that you have not thought about because you were behind a bias? So there's that. And then in addition to that, so you do have to also show that there is a blind spot. I mean, data, how much data are you going to have? And the data that you have is based on this percentage of either prospects or customers that are in your pipeline, right? Be it marketing pipeline or user activity pipeline. But then those are only a percentage of the overall market size. You can't make pure decisions based on that little amount of data that you have in your hand. So you do have to look at the overall market size and try to quantify that. Or if you can't quantify that in proper numbers, at least help them understand that in maybe in some other terms that you could present based on your knowledge and access to information.
Corin, did you have anything you wanted to add to that one?
So I would say it's two things. One of them is, as Satish said, if you don't have the data, maybe try to push to creating that baseline to start with. So if they want the data, you can say, sure, if I need to provide the data, I need to develop something really small that will allow me to check what my baseline is. And then based on that baseline metric, I can move forward. And the second discussion that needs to happen here is, what is the alternative? Like if they're obsessed with data and they don't let you move forward with development, then what are we doing? Are we just like sitting around not doing anything? Probably not. Like we have to decide what we're moving forward with and make a decision around why is that thing more important than the other alternative. Like what is the potential ROI for all of the things that we're trying to develop? What is the potential for the amount of customers that will come in? And if you don't have the baseline for measurement, which I agree is important, I agree you can't always do that right off the bat, then try to push to creating that baseline, and then from there you can kind of push to create the new thing that you want to do.
Yeah, go ahead, Satish.
Sorry, well, I was just going to say, would you two agree that two big things, namely disruptive technology and number two being competitive information from competition, those two could also be quite the amount of how do I say this? Could be the material that helps in making that decision if you don't have the data, I think. So,
yeah, like marketing research is definitely something that's really really important here. Yeah, I agree.
So second question, and our final question from the audience today is from Becky. This one's directed to you, Corin, but anyone could take it. Becky's asking, the product you're developing is a very complicated one. What exactly do you do to make sure all the feature requests are well explained in easy layman's terms?
Okay, so I love that question, and I'll tell you why.
There you go, Becky. You asked the question that was loved. Speaking of psychology and emotional connections, right there. Go ahead.
So, in some companies I worked for, and this is something that keeps on happening, you get like a bunch of feature requests from customers, and it's sometimes like a sentence. I was even, it's like sometimes I got like 5 words of a sentence, and that's like the feature request. And when I see these things, it's like I really hate them because I don't understand anything. I understand that you want some kind of feature. I don't understand why. I don't understand why would I do that? Why is it important? What will it provide? And so in every company that when I saw these, I always pushed for some kind of template. And that template could be, if it's like a Salesforce template, a Jira template, an email template, however you work with the customers. But that template has to include like the very basic things. Why do I want what I want? What do I do currently? Like, what's my workaround today? How do I go around this now? And you can design it based on your product, but make sure that these questions are answered. And what I found is 2 things. One of them is that the moment you have a template, the amount of feature requests go down because people don't bother to just put in the feature request. I'm not saying that as necessarily a good thing, but it's like people have to actually think about what they want to put in before they actually put the request in. And the second thing is that it just makes your life so much easier. And then you can kind of see the similarities between feature requests that come in. So you can see that customer A and customer B, they requested 2 completely different things, but the actual problem that they have is actually the same problem, and you can solve it in like one feature that you develop. But when you push them to talk about the problem and not talk about the solution that they want, that's when you get the real the real data that you need.
That's good advice. Awesome. So we're going to move into the trivia section part. We're going to return to the trivia section part. This is the time. So I'm going to remind everyone of the question in just a moment. But this is the time where everyone can say what you think the answer is. Post it in the comments, etc. Let's just remind ourselves what the trivia question was.
Which company made the term minimum viable product, MVP, famous? Once again, which company made the term minimum viable product, also known as MVP, famous?
All right. So that's the question. Who's got the answer? Corin?
I have no idea. I think it's like...
Just pick one.
I feel like it's something old. I'm going to say...
Oh, no. Now you're going to have a problem. Let's see how old you go here.
I was going to say like Oracle or something like... what were they before they were Oracle?
Did I just shift you to something older because of what I said?
Maybe. Yeah. But yeah, I would go with something like
Okay, Oracle.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Satish?
I thought it was Google, but again, I guess yeah, maybe. No.
All right, so the other guesses we've got are Amazon and Xerox. Wow, that one's super old. All right. All right, that's making me feel better now. We got Bain. No, not Bain either. All right. Well, let's get into it then. So let's start with some foundational elements here. Let's start with some basics. What is an MVP, or a minimum viable product? So a minimum viable product, it's the simplest version of a product that allows a team to gather the maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least effort. At the end of an MVP, it's about learning. What's the least I can do to learn the most? The goal of an MVP is to test assumptions, validate demand, iterate quickly based on real user feedback. An MVP is not about releasing a half-baked product. It's about going so far as to necessarily test hypotheses and validate product market fit. The concept of an MVP was introduced by Frank Robinson in 2001, not the baseball player, but it was popularized by Eric Ries, who's a strong advocate for lean startup methodology. Eric later wrote a book that broadly popularized the term in his 2011 book, The Lean Startup. There's common types of MVPs that people might be aware of. A survey, you can do a conversation or a questionnaire. A mock-up, which just a simple visual representation. Concierge, that's where you're faking the product behind the scenes, doing kind of manual delivery, or putting fake features in your product that you can click on that just don't do anything. Some other variants or flavors: the fake door, landing page, email campaign. Pre-order, Wizard of Oz, that sounds wonderful. Crowdfunding, Kickstarter is what I like to call an MVP engine that's out there. So there's some other famous examples of MVPs. Again, none of these are the answer. These are just other examples. Cars Direct, if you're familiar with them, they were trying to figure out, would consumer buy a car online with credit cards? So you can that kind of dates itself a little bit there. What they did is they took all the orders first and then later figured out where they'd get the cars. And so that was their MVP. Groupon pivoted to a simple WordPress blog. They were doing a completely different thing. They did a WordPress blog of a store that was just down the road. They put the coupon on a WordPress blog page. It was a PDF of that coupon just to see if anyone was interested. Then that coupon took off and they said, great, let's add more coupons to this blog. And so that's how Groupon got started before they are the thing that they became. Virgin America, they had an MVP. It was a little bit of a bigger MVP. They had one plane, one route, one experience. So they started small, but they had that was their MVP, is to see if they could make that one plane and route and experience work for them. And so while many companies have used MVPs in their approach, Dropbox is often cited as the prime example of a company whose use of an MVP significantly popularized the term. So why Dropbox MVP? The Dropbox MVP was an explainer video, and it was really there to test. It showed how the product worked, what you'd be able to do. It didn't exist, the product. It was just to test demand before building the full product. It was a simple video demo. It showed Dropbox what it would work, how it would work, and it really led to a massive wait list overnight. All this was done before the product was developed, and it really demonstrated the strong demand for the service and validated the core concept. The approach became one of the most widely cited MVP success stories, demonstrating how an MVP could be something other than a working product, and it's something that I stress in my journeys around the world all the time. And an MVP can be as simple as a video, in this case, a landing page, a wireframe, a prototype. Dropbox's MVP allowed them to gather crucial user feedback early on, which they then used to refine their product and ensure it met customer needs. It's really perfectly aligned with the whole philosophy of lean startup methodology. Dropbox's use of an MVP is what truly popularized minimum viable product and made it a mainstream product strategy that you have today. Corin, Satish, anything you wanted to add to that?
Just make sure you stick to your MVPs because they're super important. Don't try to do everything all at once. Try to do something lean and just stick to that strategy. It could be a little bit more than a video, but if you already have a product, but try to make sure that you don't go overboard with trying to do everything at once.
The one thing to add to that is I think nowadays it's easier to create a software MVP than it was earlier. You can create, you can have even CSS HTML code written to create screens. You can have database, all that hooking up, and there. So it's a little easier. You can even get Azure credits for you to just start playing with. So it's a little bit easier to create an MVP these days. So I think if somebody's interested in doing it, they should do it.
Yeah, and so let's see. Did anyone else say the answer? Bain. I like Eric's book. Steve Blank talks about it. Yep, Eric was a student. SyncDev. Yep, that SyncDev is my not a baseball player's. That's what he popularized back in 2001. So that's kind of where that came from. Not so much the company that popularized MVP itself. For me, I learned about it when I came across a company called Yipit. They had overbuilt massively. They were doing stuff with crazy algorithms, and they were trying to take the stuff that was on Groupon and other kind of deal websites and trying to and doing all this complex analysis. At one point, they said, let's just throw out 99% of the features, and let's see if maybe we can just be an aggregator for all these deal sites. Yep, it's pivoted since then, but at the time they said, let's try to do that. They didn't build the product. They created a Google form. On this Google form, you would fill out all this stuff about the product, and then behind the scenes they pretended like, oh, they're doing all this thinking and complexity. At the end of the day, all they did was, and they went with a concierge model, they hired little old ladies in Texas. So they started with one. She would look at your form and the information that you provided about yourself, and that little old lady in Texas would do some research and find and just scour the internet looking for deals that she thought you would like. She'd put that into a template email and send it to you. Then over time, more and more people kind of liked what Yipit was doing. Did they build more of a product? Nope. They hired more little old ladies in Texas to scour the internet for people, and they figured out how to scale the system to support little old ladies as opposed to figure out how to create the perfect algorithm to find the perfect information for you. And so that's the thing. You don't know where the biggest bang for your buck is going to be. And so maybe you want to, don't dive right into that algorithm that you think you might need. You might figure out what the next biggest pain point is. And for them, they realized they could really deliver more for customers more effectively by scaling the back-end system, the little that supported the little old ladies in Texas. And so for me, when I heard that story, and that was presented at one of my meetups many years ago at the product group here in New York City, when that was presented, I kind of had that epiphanal moment. I was like, oh, I get it. I thought I did minimum viable products I was doing in 3 months or 2 months. They showed me that, hey, you can turn it around in a day or two. And that's really what I've kind of held to ever since. So I really liked learning from that. So I want to just kind of wrap up right now. I want to thank everyone off camera, thank everyone on camera. And we've had some really great questions tonight. Your engagement, your questions, comments are really what makes TPG Live unique and special. And a special thanks to our roundtable, Corin over at Chainlink Labs, Satish over at Hexigma. Do either of you have any final comments, things that you want to say? Corin, let me start with you.
Well, I want to thank everyone. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, the questions are really insightful. And thank you for participating. And just always remember what we talked about. Think about the value. Think about what you're trying to, where you're trying to get to. And good luck to the job seekers and everyone. Fingers crossed.
Satish, final comment from you.
Yes. You can find me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with anybody who's on LinkedIn. And I am on the job market again, so I would appreciate any leads and any referrals. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And Corin, how can people find you online?
Yes, so LinkedIn. Yes, please connect to me on LinkedIn. It's very easy. LinkedIn.com/in/Corinne. So.
Oh, you got a good one.
Yeah.
You got a good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it'll also.
That's how old I am.
The LinkedIn's will also be in the description for on the YouTube video, so people will be able to grab it there as well. And it's also in the meetup page description already. So that people should be able to get in touch with you that way. Yeah, so it was really a great conversation that we've had here today. Everything from tying deliverables to OKRs, external pressure, that technical debt sort of thing, breaking down ideas to really work to stay aligned with the long-term vision, trying not to do everything all at once. Talked a little bit about sentimentality and walkthroughs and simplifying that login process. And we also learned how to say Zapier. I think I said it correctly, so I'm giving myself a gold star for the day. And again, a lot of great questions from the audience. Thank you very much. And also, for anyone who would be interested in joining the Roundtable, please reach out to me at jhorn@theproductguy.com. And that's jhorn@theproductguy.com. And if you have a perspective, you don't have to be a product manager. Anyone who has a strong opinion, all levels, all backgrounds, all types of experience, definitely reach out to me, and I'd love to talk to you some more. And we also we have lots of topics. We have a lot of interesting events already scheduled. But if there's other topics that you would like us to cover, please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to explore them for future episodes. And I want to ask everyone for a quick favor. Please, something you can really do is like, subscribe, enable notifications on this YouTube video on our channel. It really makes a difference. Tell 5 of your friends about the TPG Live podcast, the Product Way YouTube channel. It really helps out. It helps grow the audience, helps really just grow the knowledge in what we're trying to do here. And again, I just want to thank everyone both on camera, off camera, for really just the great conversation we've had. I think we've all learned something today, and many of us, even many somethings we've learned today. So again, everyone, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us, and I'll see you next month at the next TPG Live.
Thanks for tuning in. Just one more time, I want to share how you can support this show and gain access to exclusive career-changing resources. For less than the cost of your daily coffee, you'll unlock actionable product management strategies and case studies, proven solutions to real-world challenges, all delivered ad-free. Want to take it up a notch? At $15 a month, you'll get a personal shout-out in an episode and your name in the credits, a great way to showcase your support for our global product management community. For $25 a month, you'll gain priority access to exclusive events, detailed case studies, one-on-one resume feedback, and toolkits tailored to enhance your product management expertise. If you're ready to go all in, subscribe as a product leader and enjoy personalized mentorship sessions and exclusive insights to elevate your career to the next level. Your support makes it possible for us to keep delivering insightful content and building this amazing community of product professionals. So please, head to patreon.com/theproductway and choose the level that's right for you. Every contribution, big or small, makes a huge difference. Thank you so very much for your support.